It is now our generation's task to carry on.
An 8.5 magnitude earthquake has struck a
Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law.
For the second time in less than 3 weeks, Nepal has been rocked by another major earthquake.
Geologists say there's been more seismic activity over the last 7 months than over the last 4 decades. It's the frequency of these shocks that has the public as well as scientists puzzled.
We found the current trend was out of the ordinary.
You see this is happening in multiple areas. What's going on? An increase in earthquakes.
Scientists.
This is something that we're seeing around the world. An earthquake that's so massive.
Today, unchecked climate change and a nuclear arms race pose extraordinary and undeniable threats to the continued existence of humanity. And world leaders have failed to act with the speed or on the scale required to protect citizens from potential catastrophe.
What's happening on planet Earth is definitely not business as usual.
This is modern-day Babylon.
Good evening, godless sodomites.
Never before in the history of this country have so many corrupting influences descended upon children at one time.
Kneel before your God, Babylon!
There's been a lot of buzz over the last few weeks about strange sounds being heard in the atmosphere.
And we start with some breaking news this hour. People in the Urals in Russia have seen burning objects raining down from the sky after a meteorite exploded above the Earth. A terrible mystery gripping the world right now. Birds, fish, and all kinds of creatures just dropping dead in huge numbers for what seems like no reason.
The statue was meant for the state capitol in Oklahoma City until its Supreme Court banned a monument of the Ten Commandments. The Satanic Temple says it supports separation of church and state. It now wants to erect the figure outside the State House in Arkansas, where a Ten Commandments monument is planned.
Jesus said, I'm going to die, I'm going to rise again, I'm going to pay the penalty for sin, and then I'm going away. And while I'm gone, things will get worse.
Are you ready to piss off some Christians? I'm Jesus Christ!
It seems like the world we're living in is slipping out of control.
Humanity doesn't need God.
Oh, well, I like to think of myself as a good person. Well, we all like to think of ourselves as good people. Atheists do, Jews do, Muslims do. So when you meet somebody who claims to be Christian, mock them, ridicule them. In public.
And he bearing his cross. God paid the price for your sin.
Pains like Jesus.
For it took the precious blood of a sinless man dying in your stead to pay the sin debt.
In 1998, Quebec experienced a really heavy blizzard. There was a slur of hard ice rather than fluffy snow you want to see during a snowstorm. This ice storm was so severe and heavy that it actually warped and destroyed some man-made structures. Electrical pylons were bent up and damaged by the storm. Some of them were so damaged it looked like they were attacked by supernatural powers.
The village of Sevanagala in eastern Sri Lanka. A typical day in the monsoon season. The rain, torrential. Except there's something very different about this rain. Its color. It rained on and off for 60 days straight. People were held captive by the mysterious red downpour and feared their drinking water was contaminated. Initially unable to find the cause of the red rain, investigators turned to similar events around the world for a possible explanation. And in 2001, in Kerala, southern India, blood-colored red rain fell for 2 whole months. Initially, red dust was blamed again, this time from the Arabian desert. Dust sucked up by hot surface air, blown across the Indian Ocean, and dropped in the monsoon rains. But the dust theory didn't hold up to closer examination.
The wildfires that rocked California in the summer of 2009 were some of the worst fires to strike the area in all of recorded history. The fires burned down more than 400,000 acres of land for the entire summer. These wildfires blazed on all the way into autumn. Cost of the damages were estimated to be at least $134 million. These fires also produced huge clouds of smoke and covered the rest of the state and the neighboring states with a layer of cloud covering.
From Northern California, where residents are fleeing threatened neighborhoods, to Montana.
9 square miles torched, flames and smoke so thick they blocked out the sun.
In France, the largest summer forest fire to date has taken hold near Bordeaux. 500 people have been evacuated from their homes.
Residents of Athens were sent fleeing as forest fires broke out around the Greek capital, fueled by strong winds and high temperatures. Police confirmed 34 blazes were raging across 4 main fronts in southern Greece. 3 places seemed to set on fire simultaneously.
We begin with breaking news: a wildfire burning in San Bernardino County, east of Los Angeles.
Firefighters tell us they've never seen anything like what happened overnight on this freeway in California.
Hundreds of acres burning, then jumping the freeway.
The scene apocalyptic, an exodus of motorists fleeing their cars on foot, others taking to the hills.
And guys, this is what we're talking about, the microchip. I don't know if you can see it in my hand. It's the size of a grain of rice, very, very small. And the expert that we spoke with actually tells us that barcodes were introduced in the late 1960s. And back then, people thought, this is way too invasive and too weird. And now barcodes are so commonplace that we don't even think about them anymore. The expert tells us this will happen sooner rather than later.
Well, and Mel, you said that the technology's been around since the 90s or whatever, but I mean, have companies actually tried this? That's a different scenario.
2 of them. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. Both of those companies ended up going defunct. They tried initial public offerings. It did not go through. But you can bet somewhere, someday, someone is going to pull this off, and we could see those microchips in everyone.
In 2009, an undersea volcano in the Tonga region has started to rumble and eventually erupted in a huge way. The subsequent explosion that occurred was both unbelievably terrifying and majestic. After the eruption, there was a strong earthquake measuring 7.6 on the Richter scale also struck the region. Huge volcanic eruptions like this remind us that humankind is always at the mercy of Mother Nature.
God is speaking to us through these events. Something big, something apocalyptic is happening.
Thousands of dead bunker fish in one of the most unusual die-offs in recent memory. The bunker fish, also known as menhaden, appeared wall-to-wall along the shoreline. Last week, turtles died in the same area.
Southern California beaches look a little red. Thousands of tiny red tuna crabs are dotting the shores from Huntington Beach to San Clemente. And the fact that they're taking over Southern California beaches is very bizarre. Authorities say this is the first time in 34 years that people in Huntington Beach have seen them in the area.
Mr. President, Your Excellency, what my country is going through as a result of this extreme climate event is madness. Super Typhoon Haiyan made landfall in my own family's hometown. And the devastation is staggering. I struggle to find words to describe how I feel about the losses. To anyone outside who continues to deny and ignore the reality that is climate change, I dare them to get off their ivory towers and away from the comfort of their armchairs. I dare them to go to the islands of the Pacific. We refuse as a nation to accept a future where super typhoons like Haiyan become a way of life. We refuse to accept that running away from storms, evacuating our families, counting our dead become a way of life. We simply refuse to.
coalition of Flint residents have asked a federal judge to order city and state officials to ensure access to safe drinking water. Along with national advocacy groups, the legal retort is in response to a continuing lead contamination crisis that began in 2014. An attorney involved with the coalition added that after 2 years, Flint residents still cannot turn on their water taps without worrying about lead exposure. The residents and advocacy groups sued the city and state in January, alleging violations of the Federal Safe Water Drinking Act and seeking court intervention.
The outrage Americans experienced after the water of Flint, Michigan was found to be poisoned with high levels of lead was as palpable as sandpaper. Between 6,000 and 12,000 children were exposed as elevated blood levels rose from 2.5% in 2013 to as high as 5% in 2015. 6 Michigan state employees are making plea deals of willful neglect as they face misdemeanor charges of neglect of duty. And as Flint residents still struggle today to acquire clean drinking water, another part of America is yet again poisoned by lead. 1,200 East Chicago, Indiana residents, 2/3 of them children, are finally being relocated due to levels as high as 220 times above the lead limit and 130 times above the arsenic limit as a result of a nearby U.S. smelter and lead refinery that closed in 1985. 27 years later, EPA estimates that approximately 53% of the properties in the area, roughly 723 of the 1,271 properties, will require cleanup. The New York Times reported. Now, in a situation that many fearful residents are comparing to the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, they are asking why neither the state nor the Environmental Protection Agency told them just how toxic their soil was much sooner. And a timeline is emerging that suggests a painfully slow government process of confronting the problem.
Startled residents of a Russian city inside the Arctic Circle have been posting photos of a local river that has mysteriously turned blood red. Photos published on Russian social media appear to show the Dodecan River near the city of Norilsk, flowing vivid burgundy.
In the duny, sandy areas of the Middle East, one dangerous weather phenomenon they have to deal with are sandstorms. Sandstorms come crawling into civilizations at high speeds. These storms seem to consume anything in their path and turn visibility almost to zero in any area they're in. Walking around in a sandstorm will run you the risk of swallowing dust and being pelted in your eyes with rocks. You might require some serious gear if you really need to get around, like goggles and a face mask.
America. Oh crap. The 500-foot wall. I changed my mind! Alright, close my window! It's really dark! Alright, I'm ready to come inside.
In 2015, India experienced a heat wave so powerful it actually melted the road. Temperatures in the southern states of India reached 113 degrees in 2 days and left many people struggling. This heat wave, combined with a severe drought, reminded us that nature is scary as hell.
It's now killed more than 1,100 people, even as temperatures ease.
Thousands of people have fallen ill. Hospitals and clinics are still struggling with a rush of patients, while morgues have run out of room for bodies. The heat wave has coincided with the Muslim holy month of Ramadan.
And the death toll is expected to rise.
It's been a year since giant craters were spotted in the north of Russia. Well, they popped up out of nowhere, capturing the minds of scientists around the world.
This is a mystery for them. They believe that something extraordinary happened and they have no explanations.
The largest of the holes was found to be more than 60 meters deep.
An earthquake on the west coast of Chile triggered an eruption from the long-dormant Pujayo volcano. The ash that spewed out from the once-dormant volcano covered entire areas of Chile and Argentina, turning large expanses of land into black and white landscapes. Images captured at the time almost make it look like a scene straight from a cartoon.
Meteorological officials say smoke from Kyushu's Mount Aso in southwestern Japan rose about 1.5 kilometers into the air on Thursday. They say they believe a magma eruption is underway. It's the first time in 19 years that smoke from the volcano has gone this high.
There are warnings with what officials say may be the most dangerous eruption in decades in Mexico. A volcano has been blasting lava and ash into the air, blotting out the sky.
More people have been evacuated from the area as fears grow the eruption could become the biggest in a century.
1. Locust swarm. Something that looks almost as all-consuming as a flood or sandstorm. A locust swarm occurs under certain circumstances, usually during breeding seasons. They are often referred to as the plague of locusts as they can devastate crops and have caused severe famines.
Okay, 15, 14, okay. This is Venus over there. Yeah. Take everything out. Woo! Woo! Yes! Woo! More! Come on! Look at that man! Woo! Woo! It's multipolar. The ring is multipolar.
An exciting and a rare moment in time. A total solar eclipse is seen across the Pacific tonight.
We didn't get to see it here, but amazing pictures are pouring in from a rare celestial event on the other side of the world. People in Southeast Asia experience a total solar eclipse.
The rare phenomenon happens when the moon moves in front of the sun, so it casts a shadow on the ground. In some places, the total solar eclipse lasted for 4 minutes. But that is really incredible. And I think that, Matt, in the last couple of years, we've seen so much excitement about what's happening in the sky. You know, we have the blood moon and all the different names for the moons that we've seen come through. Supermoon. They get so excited
and then the
about
super blood moon.
Yeah. Well, you showed this on the morning show, and Jason, I love this. It gives you kind of a very unique perspective, and it was planned that way.
It was. Alaska Airlines has a trip that goes from Anchorage to Honolulu, and there was an astronomer a year ago who was looking at the coming of this eclipse and noticed, like, hey, there's a flight that goes right through there.
Oh my God! Whoa! Look at that! Oh my God! Here we go. Oh my God! It's coming right over us like a storm. Look at this! Oh my God! We're getting close. Getting close. Oh, built the dome. I got Corona. There it is. Diamond Barry's beads. Barry's beads. Diamond ring. Look at that. Corona. Totality. Totality. Oh my God. Look at that.
Health officials have assured the public that the government is well equipped to battle chikungunya disease. The illness is spread by mosquitoes with symptoms including fever and joint and muscle pains. There's no cure, but it is rarely fatal. Even so, 3 patients died in the Indian capital, New Delhi, on Tuesday.
Happening now, Iraqis fleeing 3 towns on the banks of the Euphrates River. There are new concerns that the river's water level is so low that ISIS fighters can just walk across and launch attacks.
There is this belief of if you control the water, you can control your enemy, which in that part of the world is basically true.
Controlling the dam, cutting the water flow, cuts supply to pro-government towns downstream, making it easier for ISIS to attack and crops to die, local officials say. The dry riverbed also providing a potential route to attack those pro-government towns. Civilians have been on the run since ISIS seized Ramadi last month. Water, not the only battlefield tactic. Massive IEDs inside heavy armored vehicles helped win Ramadi, the U.S. expecting more of them, rushing new anti-armor weapons to Iraqi forces. For its part, the State Department defending Tony Blinken, the #2 official, for publicly suggesting 10,000 ISIS fighters had been killed by airstrikes, saying it's a sign ISIS is under pressure.
It's never good to have someone who's in the State Department talking about the effects of combat operations, and that's what that was. There is no military person in the world that will support a body count as an indicator of success.
Is the fact that a serious number of people have been taken off the battlefield.
But Blinken was using an old number. The latest body count, 13,000 ISIS killed.
This will be a long-term campaign. Aspects of it will likely take a generation or more.
But a long-term strategy may fall short of understanding Iraq's here and now.
As the Islamic State loses ground in Iraq and Syria, its followers are trying to open a new front here in Southeast Asia. Five weeks ago, militants loyal to IS seized control of this city. Government forces are still fighting to take it back. Over 4 days in Marawi, we watched airstrike after airstrike.
We're pretty close to the front line here. The fighting is intense and it is sustained. It has been going on like this now for several hours. You can see the minarets of the mosque over there, which is where they think these militants are basing themselves. And this is part of the problem for the Philippines military. They train to fight these rebels in jungle conditions, but this is now close quarters urban warfare. They are fighting here now street to street, at times house to house.
As the call to prayer echoes out across the city, we film more troops heading back to reload. They show no intention of doing so. The Islamic State news agency released this video. It claims these are its soldiers fighting in the streets of Marawi. A few hundred men holding out against an army and an ally of the United States. This is powerful propaganda intended to draw more recruits to their cause. Sky News drone footage from inside the rebel-held territory shows the mosque believed to be their headquarters. It can't be targeted, but whole streets have been flattened beyond. What was the commercial heart of Marawi, now a city of rubble and flames. Hundreds of civilians are still thought to be trapped and hiding here. Further on and out of immediate danger, we see the reinforcements rolling in. A long convoy of armoured personnel carriers heading into the city. More soldiers packed onto trucks. Graffiti marks the route the militants took. ISIS slogans painted on the shutters. They've set up checkpoints at every entrance to the city to search for men and ammunition trying to get in and any fighters trying to escape.
And the last is the younger Mahdi.
So these are the Mahdi brothers, the leaders of this group?
They are the who found the Mahdi group.
The attack was led by two groups, the Mahdi, led by brothers Omar and Abdullah, and Isnilon Hapalon, one of the FBI's most wanted terrorists. Seen here is said to be planning the attack with Abdullah Mahdi. Both groups have pledged their allegiance to the Islamic State. In this video last June, IS called for those who could not reach Syria to head for the Philippines instead. A number of foreign fighters have already been found amongst the dead.
been a lot of buzz over the last few weeks about strange sounds being heard in the atmosphere. People around the world and here at home have reported hearing some bizarre noises.
Some strange noises heard around the world the last few weeks has people buzzing, especially on YouTube. Clips posted from Arizona to England and right next door in Manitoba, all showing folks alarmed by what sounds like a noise straight out of a science fiction flick.
They've happened here and across the country. Mysterious booming noises that for the most part have gone unexplained.
No one seems to know what is causing these weird booms. Not police, not scientists, not even the military.
Did you guys hear that? It's weird. I've never heard anything like that before.
Guys, oh my god. What's going on? Guys, what is going on? Oh, you see that light? Guys, there's a light. It's not moving either.
careful. Whoa. Whoa, nothing.
I open my eyes, I see clear. And when I open my eyes, who should I fear? 'Cause the nights are getting brighter and the days are getting shorter. If it all